How are you? Cool, good. Music is the best way to sort out problem, not a religion.
Sure.
Not a religion.
I agree.
Listen. The Muslims are listen. The Muslims, right, are proxy fighters.
It states that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that the sun sets and rises between the horns of the devil. Okay, so this is important. Why? It's important because we have these symbols of there being horns, right? And the sun being in between the horns.
Yes.
Okay, because that's the exact same symbol that we find on top of the calf that was worshipped by the Israelites. This sun disk that is placed right at the center of the horns that are on top of the cow. And actually all throughout ancient Egypt, on top of the heads of many different ancient Egyptian gods, as you can see now in the images, they are depicted having always these two horns with the sun disk in between them.
I'm like Zulkarnain, who with one horn in the east and one in the west.
Okay.
So could that be a coincidence? There's no such thing as a coincidence. That the ancient Egyptian culture, which lent the worship of the calf to the Israelites and the Abrahamic religions, that eventually you have the Muhammadan religion, the religion of Islam, and its prophet warning the Muslims. And he says in another narration to never, ever, ever prostrate or worship God at all during those two times. During the time that the sun is setting, nor do you worship God at the time that the sun is rising. And in another tradition, he explains that it's because the devil has placed a throne at the site of the sunrise and the site of the sunset. And so when the sun rises and when the sun sets, it rises and sets between his horns. And anybody that worships during those times, the devil himself speaks to his host of demons and he says to them, the sons of Adam are worshiping me.
Okay.
I'm like Zulkarnain, who with one horn in the east and one in the west.
Now we have the devil himself making himself and placing himself as the consort, right? He's putting himself as a companion of the sun. When we look for these symbols elsewhere, we find that the symbols of the horns and the symbol of the sun is present in another story in the Quran. It's a very famous story in Surah Al-Kahf, the surah of the cave. This is pretty much the only place that you find these two symbols gathered together, the horns and the sun. And that is the story of Zulkarnain. Okay, because you have this man in the surah whose name is Zulkarnain. Zulkarnain in Arabic means he with two horns. Okay, so you have a character whose name is he with two horns. And his story revolves around, basically, the Quran states that he's traveling. God grants him a way. He grants him a reason, a way to, in all things. He grants him ability over all things. And he initially travels to the location of the sunset. And at the location of the sunset, he finds a group of people over there. And it was told to Zulkarnain by God, it was told to him that these people, you can either do good to them or you can punish them as you wish.
I'm like Zulkarnain, who with one horn in the east and one in the west.
And so that means that the story of Zulkarnain, these verses that pertain to his journey, are also they are referring to the actual journey of the character of Zulkarnain, who lived thousands of years ago. But that it's also applying to Taqiyya. It's also having in there hidden instructions to the Shiyam, and it also must be talking about other things that those who have eyes to see and hearts that contemplate over the Quran will be able to grasp and extract from them. And so in light of that, let's take note with the viewers about the journey of Zulkarnain, because I think that we'll find something very familiar in there. We find that Zulkarnain, he starts off his journey going to the sunset. It doesn't start with the sunrise. If you were thinking, by common sense, by your normal logic, you would say, okay, the day starts with the sunrise and it ends with the sunset. But this is not what happens. It actually, the story of Zulkarnain starts exactly the same way that these myths that pertain to the journey of Ra or Sol Invictus or Helios begins, and that is with the sun already being in the sky, and now it's heading towards the underworld. We have Zulkarnain, he's traveling exactly, he's accompanying the sun, he's wanting to go with the sun. He has two horns, and the two-horned man is accompanying the sun, just like Hathor accompanies Ra. He goes to the sunset, the place of the sunset, and what happens? He finds over there a people that are prepared for judgment. All right, either good judgment or bad judgment. And who is it that the sun encounters when it sets? It encounters the deceased, and it's the deceased that are now awaiting their judgment. And so we find that the parallels are astonishing in this story of Zulkarnain and his travel to the sunset. We find that this is actually, there's another hidden story that's being told here, and that is the story of the two-horned man that's accompanying the sun to the afterlife, and he's given the ability to punish or reward the dead.